Hi, welcome back. It's Drupalmatic, and I am going to make a little video just talking about what a node is. If we're going to get into what a node is, we also need to talk about content types and Drupal in general. Drupal is a content management system. Content types are the blueprints for our content. So we have some sort of content we want to store in a database, and then once we have that content created, we can display it in different ways and use it how we want to. So when we go and look at what a node is, the first thing we need to look at is content types. So this is a fresh Drupal 11 install, and we have two content types out of the box. We have article and we have basic page. So if we look at the different options we have, we can manage our display, which is basically saying like how do we want this content to look like. We can manage fields to say what are we going to store in that content. We can manage form display, which is basically saying like, oh, if we're going to edit this content, we want to have these fields visible, for example. And then you can edit the content type, manage permissions, and then delete it if you want. So if I go and I click manage fields on article, you can see these are the different fields and the types of data that we can store on this field. So if I go and I create an article, I can store an image, I can store taxonomy terms as an entity reference, so I can reference a taxonomy term. I can add comments, and I can add a text into the body, and this is the type of the body field. So if I want to go and I create one, create an article, so I go content, create article, say this is my first article, and I can say in here, this is a node. This is using CK editor, so you can see some of the CK editor plugins here. You can say I want to view the source to see the markup, make it bold, stuff like that. And then you can see this is the taxonomies here. I don't have any taxonomy, so I'm not going to put anything in there. So if we go ahead and we save this node, what you can see first is that we can see now we're seeing the default display of this node, and you see the title and you see the body here. And then you can see at the top, one of the routes that you get with Drupal out of the box is this node route, which is basically /node / and then the node ID. So if I go, and a useful trick as well is that if you want to know what the node ID of a node is, you can go and edit it, and then you can see in the URL, the node ID will be there. So now if we want to look at another example, we can go to structure and then content types, and we see we also have a basic page. So the same thing, we go into basic page, we manage our fields. You can see these are the fields inside of a content type that we currently have. We can also add additional fields, so you can see some of the fields that we were using on the article content type that aren't used here. We can reuse it and add it to this content type. Or if we want, we can go ahead and create our own field. So let's say, for example, that I want to store just plain text. So I go ahead, plain text, that's what I want to save in it. I'm going to have, a new field, or maybe, just name a new field. And then I can say what type I want based on, how much text we're storing. So I'm not going to store a lot of text, so I'll just do text plain. So go ahead and continue. You say the maximum length. Help text is really useful when you're making content types, because if you have content creators who go into the site, if you put maybe some best practices of, okay, you're creating a blog post, well, inside of this blog post, make sure you mention this, and then you could just give it best practices inside of the help text. So now when you go and you create that content, you have helpful text to be able to give you some advice on when you're doing it, to help follow best practices along with the site. And then you can say required field. Do I want to make sure that this field is you have this field? Do you want to set a default value? So this is my field. If you don't put any field in, if you don't put any data in there, go ahead and save that, and you can say, all right, now we have a new field in here. So now if we go to content, and then we go and we add a content, and we say we want a basic page, then we can say this is my basic page, this is my body field, and then you can see here's our new field, and there's some text in it. That's the default text. We can go and add our own stuff in there, and then we can save that, and you can see there's our new field, the body field, and the title as well. Another thing we can do if we want to talk about what a node is we can look at the node module itself. So the node module is a Drupal core module, so we can actually go into the folders and see the module itself and the files and the templates. So if we come into here, we can go into configuration, configuration, and then we can go into development settings, and then we can turn on Twig development mode. And what this is going to do, it's going to show comments in the markup to tell us what template is being rendered. So if we come here and we right click and inspect it, I'm in Google Chrome. So here what we can do is we can just do a quick search for node.html.twig, and then you can see we have the file name suggestions, and then you can see the actual template that's being used, core theme. So the default theme for this site is Olivero, so that's why we're getting the node template from that module, is because it's being overridden. And then we can actually look at the here we can look at the node module itself. So here I'm using ddev, so that's the .ddev, and this is just a basic Drupal 11 site, just nothing done to it. And then if we go inside of the web folder, and inside of core, you can see a folder called modules, and here's all the Drupal core modules that comes out of the box that you can enable, or comes enabled on its own. So in here we see a folder called node, and we can see what this node module has if we want to see exactly what it is. So you can see we have services here, routing. So in here you can see the different URLs. For example, if you want to add a node, if you want to edit a node, stuff like that. And then you can see like permissions. So if you want to edit permissions for a node to say like who can edit this node, who can delete a node, who can manage revisions, stuff like that. And yeah, we could just go through this and see whether different items are offered. You can even see the controller for the node here to handle the different routes. For example, if you want to add a page or something like that. And that is the gist of what a node is. And thanks for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, and if you could just leave any feedback in the comments, I'd like to keep making these videos and hopefully get better. Alright, thanks. Bye.